Okay, attempt number 3. Making a video because I had a dream that I felt was worthwhile sharing, despite the fact that it was very short. It was emotionally profound. And there's another thing I want to discuss briefly that is related to a dream that many of you remember, surely, relating to the virtual reality simulator that was implied in my dream at my workplace, where I was shown an underground city and was told that our Earth that we previously knew was destroyed. I'm sure that will refresh your memory pretty quickly. I have another theory on that I would like to discuss. But before, just want to get into this dream. I was in a city that really looked like what I saw images of or videos of Tibet or Nepal, like maybe Kathmandu or one of those sort of regions, South Asian, Himalayan type regions. And the city, it was on a flat surface, but in the background were these extraordinarily tall mountains capped in white, and the buildings really kind of resembled what you would think of as Tibetan, but somehow or another I still realized and knew that this was another dimension, or perhaps an astral version of a Tibetan city, which I don't give enough credit to that notion, because that is always a possibility in my dreams, that I'm not necessarily seeing another dimension, um, or another timeline per se, but I could just be seeing an afterlife variant of the city. So I was walking around and I kept going into these buildings, and I would, I don't know what I was doing exactly, but I suppose I was trying to sell something or get some information, something of that nature. I couldn't quite understand, but I wasn't very welcomed. I was being kicked out of these places, and these places that I was in really kind of felt dirty, um, criminal, like underworld. I don't know how to explain it. It felt it was shady. Whatever that was going on in these buildings was shady, and I wasn't welcome there. So I would kind of wander around the city, which had these really, everywhere had these like very short 2-story structures with these very narrow streets. And I came upon a person, and this, at least the avatar, is a really pretty blue bird right there. Oh, wow. Sorry, that distracted me. There is a person that I do know, at least the physical form in this life. I've befriended and been friends with for many years. Um, he did look like him at the same time he didn't. It was strange. Like I knew him and yet I didn't. It's hard to explain. Like it looked like him, but maybe it wasn't. It was a soul I knew, though. I knew that is that it was a soul that I profoundly and deeply knew. And we embraced, and this is the most important part of the dream, is that when I approached them and we embraced and hugged each other, it was like it reminded me of my near death experience. It reminded me of heaven, because we exchanged true, pure emotion. True, pure love was exchanged through that embrace. There was no hindrance. It was natural. It flowed. It felt like the whole universe embraced us in a friendly gesture, but it was so far beyond what you would think of as friendly. It is a soul level embrace. And that this doesn't happen very often on Earth. This is the sort of embrace people give each other when after a tragedy, for example, but it still didn't even compare to that. It was so much more profound. Um, I woke up this morning and he also told me goodbye. He told me goodbye, and there was a goodbye like, I can't help but wonder if it means, like, it almost feels like the goodbye was directed to me, though, as in I'm leaving somewhere. But it could also be him, as in he is leaving somewhere. I couldn't quite figure it out, or maybe we both are. But we are going on different journeys, is what it was implied in that embrace, and that goodbye really radiated through my soul. And I woke up and I couldn't stop thinking about it, how so much of our contact, so much of our interaction between each other is surface level, even with those we love. And I came to that realization with my family, how I yearn and I long for a more deeper and more purposeful emotional connection, and how this is our natural way, and this is our natural state, to be in this, not to be apart, but to realize that we are one. And that's something that I fail at constantly because I push people away. I think in that embrace, I I woke up and I thought I shouldn't push people away, because it was a sign that the universe is trying to tell me something. Anyway, um, I have another theory as to the VR simulator. How I remember a few months back, I had the virtual reality pod people sort of experiencing life through third person. And retro causality comes into play here in Vanessa VA, and how this is actually a future. And so I had these thoughts in my head about the yin yang, and I was thinking about the brain splitting in two in the classroom and iPad Go 2. By the way, I was in Sarasota the other day, which is where George Bush read the book My Pet Goat. I just wanted to point that out. But I was wondering why it didn't feel right in that town. I swear there's got to be a connection, because I was feeling off over there the whole time. And the F equals minus F. So I want to call this the boomerang effect, where the space-time continuum rips in two. Maybe we shouldn't just be thinking of the yin and yang as a duality symbol between light and dark. Maybe we should look at it a lot more deeply. Maybe it represents the electrons and the protons and how they balance the material universe. And in that cartoon, when the tanks roll in, they split apart, they split in two. So we are being split in two. However, it's done in a very complex way. I also want to remind you that today is a 2-year anniversary of the first time that the NASA's showed us a black hole 2 years ago today. Did they show that black hole to us to show us that we used to be on the other side of that black hole? and how we are now split in two. So what I'm talking about is that we could have been split between the past and the future. So we think we are in our present, but we were boomeranged, let's say 100 years into the future, like Neo in the Matrix was discussing with Morpheus. You think it's 1999, Neo, but in fact it's more like 2099. And so CERN or whoever jumped us forward. Um, Part of us was left in the present. The other part was left in the VR simulated future. And we are kind of in a stasis, in a sort of semi-balanced yin-yang stasis in between the two presents, basically. It's really complicated, but I'm trying to put this in a way where it makes sense, where we're simultaneously in the future, in the past, and in the present, which is already true on its own because there is no time. But we boomeranged into that VR future. Um, and basically, what will happen next is that when the boomerang returns, um, it will split the Apple in two, iPad Go 2. When the Antichrist arrives, that future will retroactively reverse rapidly back into the past, smash back into what was our former present, and split it in half. And after it splits in half, that's when the division will be permanent between the VR simulated Earth and the new Earth, and the Earth we currently inhabit or we think of as our Earth will be destroyed. Think about it. It's just a theory, but I think it's one worth thinking about. Let me just simplify it one more time before I leave. CERN boomeranged us into the future. We are stuck in a time limbo, so to speak. And when that, let's just call it energy, I don't know if it's a special type of particle or a black hole, and it quickly runs back and reverses backwards. It smashes back in to our former present, splits us into the new Earth and the VR Earth. Take it easy.